Hi, welcome to That's So Deep. I am Phyllis, and I'm really excited to be recording this episode today. It's our very first episode, and we are tackling the topic of friendship. And, we don't talk about everything because it's such a giant topic, but I do think we get to some items of depth in this conversation that I'm having with one of my best friends, Julie. And the whole reason we started this podcast is because we wanted to address this epidemic of loneliness that is spreading across our nation. And I first learned about loneliness, the loneliness epidemic or chronic loneliness, just reading this book called Together by Dr. Vivek Murthy. He was our 19th Surgeon General. And he just talked about how chronic loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And that statistic just sort of brought me to my knees. I was just floored by that. And realizing that I would like to have deeper relationships and deeper friendships and deeper connections with people. And that I believe, and he does posit, is the antidote to loneliness, is true human connection. So that's why we started the podcast. And we want this really to be a conversation. So it's a conversation that my friend Julie and I are going to have, but we also want it to be a conversation with you, the listeners out there across the radio waves, the podcast waves, to talk to us about your struggles, the things that are missing in your life, the conversations that you want to have, the friendships that you want to have. What are some barriers that you have to deeper relationship? We want to hear all of it. So, without further ado, pop those earbuds in, take a deep breath, and let's get deep. Our topic today is friendship. And I'm really excited to talk to you about friendship because you're one of my favorite friends. And I think, I don't know, there's a lot of different ways we could go, but I am curious also about some of the things that you were thinking about yesterday because you had said that you had looked some things up. And I have a couple quotes too that I think characterize our friendship.
Fun.
So maybe we can start with that.
Yeah.
And then kind of see where it goes. Okay, so I did a little Google search too, and who knows if these quotes are really by whoever they say they're by. But this one I thought, okay, this one is apparently by Jim Henson, and I'm not sure if it really is, but it says, "There's not a word yet for old friends who've just met." There's not a word yet for old friends who have just met. Because I feel like when I met you, you were already an old friend.
Agreed. Completely.
You know?
Yep.
Like it was already really comfortable and I could just kind of, I don't know, settle into the friendship really quickly.
Yeah, it was really easy from the start.
Yeah. And then another one is good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're always there.
That's nice because we don't live in the same place and we haven't been in the same room for like 10 years.
I know.
And even social media, neither one of us really use it that much. And so we've just recently reconnected on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of my favorite things about friendship, or like true close friends, is that you can go for a long time without speaking and then just pick up where you left off.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I recently got back in touch with a couple other friends also. And it was really funny. It just felt like we were living parallel lives. Like we were growing separately, but also kind of growing together. We just didn't know it, and similar with you. It's like you've been growing and doing all this stuff and I've been growing, and then we came back together and it was like we were just branches of the same tree,
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. Oh, this one is addressing what I just said, which is the most beautiful discovery true friends make is that they can grow separately without growing apart.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
So how, like, in terms of friends, like how many close friends do you feel like you have?
I mean, I'm an introvert, so
Yeah.
my friend circle is not that wide anyway.
Yeah.
Um, Probably under 10
Yeah.
close friends.
Yeah.
Um, and then best friends, like two, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not not many. So part of that is the time invested
Mhm.
in building the trust and building the strong bonds. Part of the lack of a strong or a wide net of close and best friends is the lack of effort in putting the
Yeah.
energy toward building the trust and finding time or making time to build that trust with people.
Yeah.
But I think the last 2 years with the pandemic has really
Mhm.
sharpened focus and
Mm.
made me figure out what's worth making the effort and
Yeah.
what's not.
Yeah. I don't know if it sounds like cold or something, but sort of like a cleaning house of which relationships, kind of make my energy go up and which relationships kind of bring me down. And so I found myself just trying to get back in touch with friends that I've known, from a long time ago that really brought my energy up. And I think I've gone that direction because it is less effort. Like, I think I've just felt kind of worn down by the pandemic. So I'm like, I want to just tap back into the old roots that I've already built, where I don't have to do a lot of explaining or people already know about my family and my values and, just who I am, how I am. You don't have to rebuild from scratch.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
also think the pandemic, we've all sort of been in survival mode, right?
Yeah.
We're taking in so much information every day, and you really have to take a look at what what lifts you and what strengthens you, what
Mhm.
comforts you. You know, for me, comfort is a big thing.
Mm.
Feeling comfortable with the people that I'm around and feeling comfortable and safe with who I am and,
Mm.
who's going to honor that.
Yeah.
And I think you can tell pretty quickly if you're tapped into, well, I shouldn't generalize everyone because I understand that not everyone can feel energy when they walk in a room. They can't
Mm.
walk in a room and know if there's tension or not. I mean, most people can, I think.
Mhm.
But I think when you're talking one on one with someone, you can tell if this is a safe place or not
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when I think about friendship too, I think a lot about this idea of holding a friend, like emotionally, I don't know, intellectually, spiritually, just being able to hold what a friend has to offer and hold what a friend has to say, hold their process, whatever it is that they're going through, their growth, and just being able to just hold it for them. And I guess how maybe we would have said it before is just support. But I think I like the word hold because there's an intimacy to it, that I think is a really crucial part of friendship. And it's this, I don't know, it's this space, that you're kind of, I don't know, together forming. I think about that a lot because I think in the past, when I felt like I was a little less mature, I would often jump into the space. So if a friend came to me with like an issue, I would immediately jump into the space and start spouting off advice. I really feel like there's an art to holding the space and being able to just take in what the other person is saying and not jump in with all of your thoughts, but actually just holding that space for a minute and then really trying to figure out and really talk to your friend about what they need. And maybe another part of holding is just listening. I was never really a good listener. That's like a learned skill for me is like actually being able to listen and like, what are you really saying?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that it's an art that I'd really like to see come back. When we jump in with advice, we end up feeling lonely and the other person ends up feeling lonely.
Right.
And
Right.
it's not that advice isn't welcome because sometimes your friend maybe does need advice, but it's just like not the right time. And so it can be so isolating. It can be so isolating sometimes when it's like not the right moment, you know? So I
Yeah.
feel like that dance is really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that term holding also, because it's meeting your friend where they are.
Yeah.
And then, maybe just letting them sit with it for a while, or, asking questions to get them to draw
Right.
out more of what is deeper, what they're feeling, without saying, you should do this,
Yeah.
um, just helping them maybe sit with it and then come to conclusions on their own.
Yeah.
I've always been a good listener, I think. I've always
Mm-hmm.
been quiet, and, well, that's part of the introvert, I think.
Yeah.
Also, probably part of being a middle child
Mm.
is the listening and hearing all the stuff around you,
Yeah. Yeah.
being observant. But that doesn't mean I'm not guilty of jumping in and saying, this is what I would do. You should do
Yeah.
this. I can
Yeah.
get pretty sassy, and I can get pretty sassy, and not all situations call for that.
We had this conversation the other day about just the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that also comes into play, like when you're telling someone something that just happened and it's affected you, you're kind of processing it. You're like in this downstairs part of your brain, which we categorize as like I think I learned this from this book called The Whole Brain Child, and we can put all this stuff, these references in the notes too. But the downstairs part of the brain is like your reptile brain, your feeling brain. And then the upstairs brain is kind of your cognitive functioning, your logical reasoning and all that. And so I think when you're deep into, I don't know, processing something that just happened to you, and you're telling that to a friend, you're approaching them from your downstairs brain and they're approaching you from their upstairs brain, So a lot of times it's like they're like, well, I know I can see the perspective, from up here, and I can tell you all the, things that you actually need to be doing, when actually what the friend needs to do is just go downstairs and kind of be with you in that feeling. And that's kind of where I think empathy comes in. And then kind of once you've all settled into the couch in the downstairs basement of your brain, then you can maybe decide to go up this, the staircase of the mind, and then go upstairs and get something to eat in the fridge and maybe find some solutions. But I think that's like that image is I need to return to more often to kind of remember that that's how we all are, actually. When we're kind of feeling our big feelings, is that we're all kind of in the downstairs part of our brains. And I think for me, sometimes I get really controlling and I'm like, I just want to fix the problem because it's clearly this,
Yeah.
Um, but yeah.
That's where silence comes in. That's where
Yeah.
just letting them. I like that. You go sit on the couch in the basement in the dark,
Yeah.
and you're under a blanket together,
Yeah.
and eventually you'll be able to take the blanket off and take a couple steps upstairs.
Yeah.
So but it's theirs to be ready to hear, right? It's
Yeah.
theirs to be ready to come upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Like, I think sometimes being a friend is also just being a witness, like
Yes.
being a witness to their whatever it is, their joy, their pain. You just kind of stand there and you're witnessing it. I think another thing that I'm guilty of sometimes, and this is probably along the same vein, is like sometimes I jump in too quickly to relate to somebody.
Oh,
Rather
yeah.
than be a witness. So, like, sometimes if something really tragic has happened to a friend, like a parent passing away or a dog passing away or something, I think sometimes I can be quick to be like, oh, yeah, it's just like when my grandma passed away, or
Right.
my neighbor also, their dog passed away, and la, la, la. And then you're quick to kind of jump in there. And I think the idea is like you're wanting to connect or relate. Then I think what ends up happening is you take away the uniqueness and the witnessing of that person's very unique pain. It's like my grandma wasn't their grandma, and my neighbor's
Right.
dog wasn't their dog.
And the situation isn't about you. It's about
The
them and
situation,
their
that's
pain.
right. Yeah. It's about them and their pain.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
recognizing when it's about them. I think a lot of people do that to relate. But then if you're on the receiving end of that, then it's just frustrating because you don't feel like you're being heard. You don't feel like you're
Right.
being seen in whatever pain you're in.
Yeah, like what is that? Why do we want to relate like that? Like, is it just bad listening? Or is it like I don't know, we're craving connection too? Like, what is that? Why do we jump in so quick sometimes?
Right. Maybe it's what you said. If I can relate, if I can jump in and uh, let them know that I have been in the situation too,
Yeah.
then they'll see that I'm a safe person. Maybe you're
Mm,
forcing the safety. You're
mm.
you're forcing a a connection.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe it is connection. I mean, aren't
yeah.
we all just seeking connection all the
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like maybe you're forcing the safety. I'm safe too. That's also happened to me. I can
Hmm.
relate. Maybe now you'll feel better now that you know. It just does the opposite.
Yeah,
It's
it
just really
does.
weird that it does the opposite, you know?
Yeah. But you're right, it doesn't feel safe. It feels like you're taking away from this moment
Yeah.
for me.
You're taking away this moment that's for me. Yeah. I think friendship too has been hard this year because not all of us are very emotionally generous. You know, kind
Hmm.
of like what you were saying is like we're all a little bit in survival mode because of the pandemic. And so maybe there's a higher likelihood that we do jump in and relate because we actually feel deeply lonely and we don't really have that much to offer. And so I know that I'm the most emotionally aware when I am well rested and feel really well connected with my friends and, you know, feel really good about my family. Like everything just feels stable and I've got it under control, you know? And so then I can spend the time and be a really good listener and be a really good friend to people. But when I'm taxed and there's like a lot going on, and then I tend to be a poor listener and I don't have the resources to
Yeah,
really offer my best to people.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you also need to take care of yourself so you can take care of other people.
Right. Right.
That's,
It should be a sign that I'm not taking care of myself.
yep.
Hmm. That actually happened to me this week. I felt like this yesterday, you know, I felt like I can always tell when I start to get really resentful, you know, and I'm like trying to make my children clean the house and like I'm getting really bitter that I'm just doing the dishes all by myself. Whereas 2 days ago, I was fine with all of it. I was fine with a messy house, you know, but it's just like there's a switch that goes off that I haven't quite figured out yet of like when I'm actually doing too much in that moment when I'm like, I've actually just done too much. Cause somewhere in there, I went from like, I'm good to like, now I'm totally bitter.
Yeah.
and, and like the innuendo, like, I haven't figured out just exactly where I needed to stop and draw a boundary and say no, you know?
Sure. That takes a lot of self-awareness
It does.
because I've heard you talk about being in that mind and then being like, "Oh, I'm probably just hungry," or "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just really tired. I didn't sleep well last night," or
Yeah.
whatever it is. Or I've been in a meeting for 2 hours and it drained my energy, and so
Yeah.
I just need to take a walk to get some
Yeah.
to liven up a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So you are aware that
Yes.
it's not about the dishes being dirty, it's about other
Yes.
things, but you you don't recognize it until it's too late.
Yes. I never recognize it until it's too late. Then I'm like, I hate everybody. Everything sucks. Poor me. I'm such a martyr.
But you can laugh about it. That's
I
good.
know. I can. I know. I was a little grumpy last night and I was like, I texted a friend late at night. She's a really good friend of mine that I can sort of vent and call on sometimes. And I'm like, literally texted her, I am going to say no mean things to any person. I am now closing my eyes.
So you did recognize it before.
Yes, that is all I needed to say was I'm not going to say any mean things.
I feel like you're a child writing on the chalkboard.
I am. I will. Yeah, like Bart Simpson writing a million times. I will not put a tack on my teacher's chair. Yeah. I really want to put a tack on my teacher's chair. Yeah, I just feel like I want to say so many mean things. Oh my God.
That's when you get your journal out and write it down instead of
that's true.
saying it out loud.
Yes, that's true. I think this is a little bit of a different topic too, right? It's like friendship, but then also bringing in this idea of self-care, which I'm sure we can address in a different podcast, but it's taking care of each other, but also taking care of yourself. I'm like notoriously bad at it. I'm just not.
I think a lot of us are. A lot of us are. Yeah. We're very aware of what's happening outside of us, but we don't take time to notice what's going on inside of us.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think it's a different episode.
It is a different episode. Yeah. I know. But that's why we have friends like each other, I think. I think one of the things that drew me to you was like, I'm like, oh, the nurturer in me meets the nurturer in you. It's like, I know this lady's going to take care of me and I want to take care of her, And it was the type of care too. I feel like it was the kind of emotional holding, the emotional care, the listening, all of that,
Yeah. Yep.
So thank goodness for you.
Oh, right back at you.
What else do you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's talk about social media friendships.
Oh my God.
At least a little bit. Do you remember your first platform that you joined?
I'm pretty sure it was Facebook. I really wanted to say MySpace right now just to mess with everyone, but it was not MySpace. I'm pretty sure it was Facebook. Yeah.
Do you remember why you joined Facebook?
I joined Facebook. I don't exactly remember why, and I don't even remember who told me about it. I just remember joining it, and then all of a sudden, all of my high school friends' faces popped up that I had not spoken to in like 5 years or something. And I was like, oh, they have like, it probably wasn't 5 years. It was probably like a few more years down the line because some of my friends had children or they were married, and I was just like, it was this shock to the system. It was so exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, like I really appreciated even some friends that were like not very close to me, in high school. I really admired and respected them. And it was like super fun to see their lives. I was like, oh, it's so amazing. They're like, I was so happy for them. Like you're married and you have children and you have these jobs and you've really pursued your career in dentistry or whatever it was. It was just like such a joy to see how much they had grown. And that's why I loved it. And I was like, ooh, let me share too. I want to share, it was just this exciting. And I'm an extrovert, which I think is really great because you're an introvert. So it's like a neat two different perspectives, into friendship. So like for me, my extroverted brain was just like lighting up. I was like, oh my God, this is so great, And that's why that was the joy, I think that sucked me in initially.
I was a teacher for a few years and I remember in 2006, I don't know why I remember it was 2006, but we had come home from Hawaii and were visiting with some of our former students and just catching up with them. And they told us about Facebook and they said, you just have to have a school email address to get on Facebook, right? It wasn't like it was open to everybody at the time. Yeah. And so we both did. We both had school addresses. So I should say my partner and I, not we is very, okay.
Yeah. Not you and me, but.
Right, right. And so we joined in 2006. So we were in Hawaii at the time and immediately connected with former students. And, it was really great to see what they were doing with their lives. And you could really see what they're doing in college and all that kind of stuff. It was great. It was great. For me, when I started, it was great to connect with students, but then my nieces and nephews were quite young, but they were going to start to get into social media. And I was in Hawaii and they were in Iowa. And so it was a great way for me to stay connected with them when they got into high school and see the things that they were doing and, see pictures of prom and homecoming and all these things that I was missing out on. Yeah. And then after that, it became, high school classmates, college classmates, which is great to connect with them and see the same thing you said. They're married, they're having babies, their lives are really great. But now there's so much crap on Facebook. I can't take it anymore. And I don't care. I only have it for my job at this point.
Yeah. I know. That's sort of what happened to me also. I think I was doing, I was on Facebook quite a bit, even up until the pandemic was about a few months in, because I think it was such a sad time that I kept trying to cheer people up by making really silly videos or posting some like self-deprecating videos of me like hiding in my closet and like not wanting to make dinner for my family because it had been too many months, and just trying to post things that were like real and also kind of cheerful. And then at some point I think it felt wrong because I think people were dying of COVID. People were really struggling and having a hard time, and I think it felt bad. I don't really know how my videos were received. I knew my intention behind my videos, but it's like depending on where you are and how you're feeling with your life and your situation and the people around you, you could really take and interpret whatever it is that I'm putting out in a way that could maybe hurt you or make you feel bad about yourself. And I just didn't want to take part in that anymore,
Yeah.
Because I think maybe because I was on the receiving end of some posts and people just stating really strong opinions or people starting to use Facebook politically, instead of just sharing about their life or their family. And so I just disengaged from it. And then I watched this documentary, The Social Dilemma. I think it was on Netflix.
Yep.
And maybe I'm naive for feeling kind of swayed by it, but I was very swayed by it. I'm like, I think I've just been kind of unhappy, even with some of the happy stuff and the sad stuff. It sort of or angry stuff. It just sort of sends me into self-doubt. And I was like, am I like a weak person that I can't handle all of this? And I'm like, no, I think it doesn't really matter why, like the reason why I can't handle it. It's just that it's not healthy for me at this current moment. And, everybody has sort of a different tolerance for it, but I realized my tolerance was getting really low and it wasn't making my energy go up, And so at that point, I think I replaced Facebook with one-on-one connections with people like you through Marco Polo or through phone calls. I decided to grow my roots a little deeper with individual friendships that brought a lot of joy and value in my life instead of these more surfacey hit or miss connections. And I know that I miss out on a lot. There's people that post health things, people that I feel like I should know more about. They post like health updates and other things on Facebook, and I miss that, So I don't want people to think I don't care. It's just that I'm not there, And so I'll occasionally go on. I've taken the app off of my phone, and I'll occasionally go on just through the browser to do a quick scan, maybe once a month or something, like a couple things, and then kind of go off. And then if I see something that a friend has posted, I might text them or reach out individually and say, can I do anything for you? Whatever it is. Anyway.
So, yeah, as we talk about friendship and connection,
yeah,
I think for me, not wanting to be on Facebook anymore, it's because the connection isn't real a lot of times. It's what people want to put out there.
Yeah.
And I don't want a connection with someone that isn't real. It's too much work for me to try to decipher, why are they posting about this, or why, what are they trying to say? It's just, there's also a lot of anger, and that takes me to the basement real fast.
Yeah.
And so I just have put up boundaries. I like Marco Polo because it's just one-on-one, or
a small group or something.
A small group, yeah. And it feels more real that way. There's not all the extra noise that you have to sift through. So I don't know if people are able to make real connections using social media, and maybe that's not what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just find it kind of exhausting at this point.
Yeah.
So, boundaries is another topic that we could talk about.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
I did want to mention, you talked about your intentions with videos that you would put up, and you know what your intention was, but you didn't know how it was received. And I do have social media. I have Instagram.
Right.
I scroll through Instagram, but I'm following who I want to follow. And
Yeah.
I'm not spending a ton of time on it. But I do follow Glennon Doyle, and I haven't listened to the podcast. I just saw the clip that they posted where she talks about art, and you're putting your art out into the world. She's putting her writing out into the world, and she knows what her intention is, but she got exhausted trying to be a lawyer for her art, trying to explain to people what she meant. You can't worry as much about how people receive it, because people are going through their own stuff and their own perceptions, and their own life experience is coming in with that feedback. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a good thing to remember that
it is.
You know what's true for you, and you can't get too hung up on what other people are perceiving.
Yeah.
You can't fight every battle. It's too exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like, everybody views whatever it is that you're posting through a certain lens with all of the things that are going on with their lives. Yeah, being a lawyer for your art. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you don't want to always be defending yourself,
Right.
I think that probably comes from a place where, I don't know, like, sometimes we don't allow ourselves and other people just to be evolving and changing and growing. Even when we met, I don't know, 17 years ago. Like, we are we are very similar, but we've also really evolved as people. And so maybe the art that we would have produced 17 years ago, as opposed to the art that we would create now, would be really different. It would be a more evolved version of.
Absolutely.
I think what Glennon Doyle talks about too is like, your truth in your moment is true for you in that moment, but it might be not true later. And so I don't know, you just kind of have to stick with it. I think I want to go back to just something you said earlier about just you having very low tolerance for fake, and you're kind of done with that. And same, I feel done with the social construction of identity. Like, I just feel done with, here's this multifaceted human being, and I'm only going to show you one facet.
Right.
There's actually like hundreds of facets.
Right.
And for some reason, I'm just showing you this one side. Like, if you think about those like beautiful rainbow crystals or a disco ball, it's like all of those like multiple little mirrors that maybe reflect who you are, and you only show this teeny little part. And like, why have I curated this teeny little square for you to see instead of this like actual beautiful disco ball that when you shine a light on it, there's like all these rainbow colors, but you're like just choosing this tiny part. And I think we have this curated outlook on how people are, and it's just not right. It's not even, I think the whole kind of reason we started this podcast was because we want to address loneliness. We want to bring depth into conversation and talk about real, authentic things. And I think that it does a disservice to people who we disagree with also, right? Because if we are on social media and we see people who disagree with us and they're posting something about whatever, then we only judge them by their one facet. We didn't see that day they walked down the street and dropped off a meal to their neighbor because they were sick. We don't see that they just paid for somebody's parking ticket. We don't see that they have a family, and so I think we judge people based on their one facet when we actually need to embrace the whole damn disco ball, know? So I just feel like, I think that's my biggest critique of social media. We're not seeing whole people, but we're being fooled into thinking we are.
Yeah. Yep. And I am totally guilty of that.
Yeah. Same.
Right?
Same.
Oh, that's an angry post. Unfriend or block or whatever.
Yes.
That is rude to other people. Right.
And
I'm totally guilty of that.
And they're getting all riled up because they probably saw something and they feel unheard and unseen, you know?
Right, right. Their
And
life
so,
experience has led them to this.
yep, their life experience have led them to this. So they're going to put their opinion out there. They're going to dig their heels in. And then you have like
Mm-hmm.
billions of people digging their heels in and nobody
Yep.
listening to each other,
Right.
you know? I mean, who would have thought that that's what would have happened, you know, would be the
Right.
outcome? I don't really think that was really the intention initially. Like, I think
Right.
it was connection.
Right.
You know, I do, but I think we have to go back to sort of the old fashioned way. Like, we're literally doing like a talk radio show now. That's what this,
Right.
this
Right.
is, you know?
Right. And there's so many talk radio stations out there. So that tells you something. That tells you that people want a different kind of connection, and
Yeah.
they want to learn in a different way. They want to find the topics they're interested in and dive deep that way.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, girl. I think this is good. We're back. This was a really great conversation about friendship. It went in lots of different directions, and I really like exploring this topic. I think there's a lot to talk about. So we wanted to leave you guys with maybe some takeaways that we came up with. So one is in your friendships or friendship, we were thinking of this idea of, you know, the upstairs and downstairs part of the mind. Maybe see what it would be like for you if you're kind of an advice giver like me. See what it would be like for you to just, if your friend is sharing something, to go downstairs with them and maybe to bring them a blanket on the sofa of the downstairs part of their mind and maybe sit with them in those feelings and in those processes. So maybe we can all practice that this week.
I
Yeah, go
really
ahead.
like the analogy of bringing a blanket,
Yeah.
right? Bringing something of comfort.
Mm.
Not taking their hand and forcing them upstairs.
Yes.
But bringing them a blanket, bringing them to a space where they are, right?
Yes.
Bringing them comfort where they are.
Maybe a bowl of warm soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
A mug of hot chocolate. I think I'm hungry. That's why. But yeah, I love that. Because that's your thing, Julie, too, is that comfort. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
And safety. Yeah, you want your friends to feel safe and that you'll sit with them and be in the downstairs with them on the sofa with a blankie and some soup. I love that. I think the other takeaway we were thinking about was just remembering that people are multifaceted, you know, sparkly disco balls. And that sometimes maybe on social media or even if you're walking around in the grocery store, you know, that people are made up of many, many different moments and you're just maybe catching someone in a moment. And that doesn't speak to the entirety of who they are. Just having that kind of grace and forgiveness and openness to other people. And so it's another kind of holding space. It's another different way of kind of holding space for people, not jumping too quickly to judge, but trying to keep that in mind. Maybe having that disco ball in your mind will help you remember, you know, just that image that we're all multifaceted.
We've got lots of mirrors on us.
We got lots of mirrors on us.
Yeah.
I got to remember that. Now I want to like go buy a disco ball.
I have one. You know I have one, right?
I know. I've been like, yeah, I've been a little bit jealous of your disco ball, honestly, and Rainbow Time. Another thing Julie and I wanted to ask you for, our listeners, is just some feedback. And so we feel very fancy and very special because we have a phone number and a voicemail. So if you could call us at 805-288-0884 and leave us a voicemail with some feedback or just thoughts on friendship, that would be great. We would love that. Another place you can leave us some feedback is on our email address, which is sodeeppeeps@gmail.com. And so it's spelled SODEEPPEEPS@gmail.com. And we'll leave those in the notes as well. Yeah. So so excited to be sharing our conversations with you. We really want this to be a conversation, so please do, send us things that you're thinking about, questions, vents, whatever it is. Yeah.
Yep.
All
Ideas
of it.
for other episodes. We'll take it all.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thanks
Yeah.
for listening.
Thanks for joining us.
All right. Bye.
New friends. We have new friends.
We have new friends. Yay. Awesome.